Hey, everybody. It's the Phenomenal STEMist. It is 4 o'clock. I hope you can see me. Good afternoon, everyone. Good afternoon. It's Phenomenal STEMist. And I have with me Miss Ebony Liddell. Miss
Hello.
Ebony Liddell, how are you guys doing, everyone? Hopefully, you guys can come on. I see a couple people watching. Come on in. It's the Phenomenal STEMist. I usually do a for like 1 minute. I actually forgot to do that. That's what I should have done. But it's all gravy. Hey guys, it's the Phenomenal STEMist. I have with me Mrs. Ebony Liddell.
Hello.
Liddell. She has a bachelor's degree in finance. Go ahead, go on, girl. Afro Latina. A master's in business administration in data analytics, and she's currently doing her master's in science in industrial engineering, specifically in terms of healthcare systems. And today we're talking about how to enter the hospital data and systems engineering field. I mean, she can tell you how to do this. Like if anybody could tell you how to do this, this is this strong woman. It is Women's History Month, Ebony, and I didn't think of anybody better than you. Like let's do this.
Thank you for having me, Doc.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you so much. We're gonna get right into the questions after I share this on Phenomenal STEMist. You can find me on YouTube. We're on YouTube as well as Phenomenal STEMist Facebook and Instagram. So remember to share this, like, and subscribe, and support. Phenomenal STEM is just different ways to get underrepresented students in STEM. So I really thank you so much for being a part of this interview, Ebony. And we're gonna get right into it. First question. When did you fall in love with your discipline? When did
Well,
you fall
I
in
have
love
to
with your discipline?
say, when my husband Tars joined the military, at that time, I didn't even have a bachelor's degree. I didn't have any, I guess, undergraduate education at the time. I started working for the Corps of Engineers and the Directorate of Public Works of the United States Army in West
Mhm.
Point, New York. And I was in a job called I want to say it was called the order clerk specialist or something of that kind. So it was pretty much the administrative function of that office. And the office specifically was called Boyd. So it was Business Operations Integration Division. And I was exposed there to so many different like STEM jobs all in one, which was kind of overwhelming because I obviously, had a pretty good educational background. My father is a pastor, he's an attorney, he was in the military. But my life took a little bit of a different turn. I am definitely the stereotypical PK. And
Okay.
my very first year in college, when I was 17, I had like a 1.9 GPA and
Wow.
dropped out by that December. So fast forward, I am with my husband married in the military at 24 years old in this basic job because I had no education at the time. And let me just add that it was one of the most like embarrassing times in my life because I've always felt like I was analytical and I was smart, but I regretted not applying myself. And my friends by then, if you do the math, by 2022, my best friend is a dentist. I have cousins that are judges. I have friends who are now in that data engineering field and had been in those fields for a while. So to bring it back full circle, I am here in almost, I feel like the Lord set me up for the career that I have now, even in the midst of my shame for not applying myself. He puts me in a business integration field. Engineers, I had no clue what they did. I had no clue what supply chain was. But here I was with this opportunity to work with these amazing people. And that's where it all started. They were integrating from like pen and paper materials management requisitions to the military's ERP system, which is basically, their integration system between costing, finance, supplies, and human resources. So the Army was going from a fairly manual process to
Paperwork
correct.
to
So
digital.
they're going digital. Yes. So they were integrating the very first ERP system. And here I was, again, just a service order clerk, an admin in the midst of it all. And I had a female engineer who I was literally pulling blueprints for. I was helping her do basic like spreadsheet work. And she said to me, and we had a conversation prior about our lives and how I went to school a time previous and my dad had paid for it. So I didn't want to go back because this time I had to pay for it. And she
Mhm.
said to me, I'm not a military spouse, but I've heard that there's a scholarship and it's called My CAA. And I was just shocked that she was just a federal employee, no ties to the Army. She knew all of this information about educational benefits of military spouses. And I had
Mm.
not the first clue of how to access any of these benefits. I just knew that this lady saw something in me and she told me that she thought I was analytical and that I should get started with an associate's degree. So I researched my CAA scholarship. They give you $4,000 to do either a certificate of your choice or a degree of your choice. And there I started. I started at the State University of New York, getting my associates in business administration. Again, at the time, I just really wanted to get a footing in school, period. I didn't really want to be an engineer at the time. I just was inspired by my surroundings. I was inspired by strong female STEM, engineers and folks of that nature. And once we started integrating the system, I was going to school, taking obviously your computer courses, my math courses, and I started getting little projects, just
Mm.
like project costing, just really basic things that started to correlate with my schoolwork. And that's when the light bulb hit for
Went
me.
off.
I said, if I want to get from where I am with an associates to be potentially an engineer or to be in supply chain, then I have to further my education because with an associates, I'm not going to get a job anywhere. So, long story short, that's how it started. I started getting projects that correlated with my very, at the time, I felt like it was basic education.
Basic job, basic education.
And as I started finishing those, degree requirements and went on to my bachelor's, I started being entrusted with more of those projects. And then I went on to be, on the cabinet for capital projects and doing some basic computations and supply chain operations. And that's when Taurus, of course, left active duty.
Towards
And
your husband,
my
who's
husband,
active.
he went into the reserves, which is where I transitioned there to healthcare supply chain at that time.
Okay.
And that's a whole nother story in how I obtained my master's while like 9 months pregnant. And
I love your story though. It's like a comeback
oh
story,
yeah,
especially you just being open and transparent about how you did not do well your first time around in school. You basically flunked out, you dropped out, but at 24 you decided to go back when somebody informed you and you realized this is what you need, and you had and thank God you had the ability to go back. You were able to be financed to go back. And there's so many students, especially at the state, and community college level, there are so many opportunities to go back to school for free.
oh
You
yeah.
can, if you just decide. And this time it's on your dime. It's your decision. I just really wish that we could master the art of completion,
Yes.
where though we quit, we come back and we don't give up. And that's what you did, to the point where while you're 9 months pregnant, you're still doing it. So kudos to you. You discovered your love for your discipline late in the game. See, most people that I've talked to when it comes to sciences, etc., they loved it from a child. But it's never too late. That's what I'm hearing from you. It's never too late. Yeah, I love that. I love that. So, what tools? So, once you decided to discipline yourself, so you could talk about what you didn't do when you were first in college to what changed. Like, what tools did you use to discipline yourself to
Certainly.
succeed?
So, Doc, I'd like to say that not only did my education trajectory sort of transform, but I think my lifestyle and how I live my life really evolved over time. And just to take it even back further, I went to private schools my whole life, from church school all the way to high school. And when you
Yeah, me
talk
too.
about a comeback story, I didn't only have a comeback from college to where I am today. I graduated with such bad grades from high school that my diploma from Bass Adventist Academy says GED. So I
Wow.
literally took, that amazing opportunity to go to such a great school, which costs so much money. And I basically went and did the bare minimum and obtained essentially a GED. So when you talk about the shift in my mindset that I had to sort of get myself out of, my whole life, I've just been doing the bare minimum. I've been smart.
Mm.
I was that person that could walk into a test. My friends will attest to this, that I've passed tests without studying, but I mostly was interested in the arts and singing. And, when you get some things kind of handed to you, and just seeing my dad, for context, my dad was a single father. Um, we were well to do in the Dominican Republic. He came over. That's a whole nother long story. So, my whole life, I think in my subconscious mind, I saw him kind of gather up all of these degrees and these things. And to me at the time, I felt like financially and just in life, I didn't see a PhD. I didn't see an attorney. I didn't see a doctor. I saw somebody that gathered all of those accolades and then sort of gave his life to the church. So,
That's deep. That's a different story altogether, but I know what you're talking about, though. Go ahead.
listen, when I tell you that just going from high school to then naturally, I saw all of my friends going to Adventist schools, right? That's what we do. And then squandering that, when I was faced with the reality that I'm 24, and if I want to get to a certain place, I need to grind, or I'm going to be in school till I'm 30. That was that hunger. That was that Mamba mentality that I had at 24, was I'm going to get 3 degrees in the next 3 years. I wrote it down. I wrote it
Mm.
down. I made it happen. I knew exactly what type of careers I wanted to have, and I did it. At one point, I was taking 30 credits a semester. I spoke to the community college president, and I made a deal with her. I said, if I keep my grades up, can I enroll in these other community colleges, on the opposite semester? She said, go for it. The minute your grades drop, I'm dropping you out of my school too. So here I was, my first time back in school, for real,
Mhm.
really felt like my first time. And I put this insane load of classes on myself. I was doing anything and everything that I could to really catch up. And I think that's what happens when you don't have any direction or anybody that really guides you. You just kind of go for these insane goals because you feel ashamed. Um,
Mm.
but for me, I'm just thankful that I had somebody at the time, like my husband, who had a completely different life experience than I. And in terms of doing things right, I guess, he had the mother and father, he went to college at the right period of time. So I had a partner that didn't really tell me that I was crazy in undertaking all of this insane, just kind of goals, and just feeling that pressure. But he helped me. Taurus stayed up with me late at night. Taurus, was there sort of guiding me through being a first time college student, you know. And that's really what I think made the difference, was that I did feel that shame that kind of kicked me into gear. Some people feel the opposite and stay in their
Right.
in their life, and don't want to change it. But I changed myself. I had a partner that was crazy enough to come with me on this journey. And at the same time, I think finally giving all of my shame to God and just
Mm.
saying, you know what, Lord, I don't think that I've made much of myself. I think I'm too late in the game. I'm doing all of this crazy stuff trying to make something of myself. And God honored that. As hard as I worked, the more doors he opened. Um,
Wow.
the more that I put these crazy things on my plate, I feel like he gave me a little relief in something else. So my story is really twofold, is that I really don't like excuses in my friend group. I feel like they think that I'm sort of a shark. Not because of my story, but in spite of the obstacles that I've overcome, I just feel like people don't dig deep enough, period.
Yeah.
Like, you need to identify that you've messed up, but that's not where it stops. It's, are you comfortable where you are? Because if you are, I'm learning now that I'm older, not to beat people over the head with my journey. So if you're okay with where you are, that's fine. I just know that I wasn't okay with it, and something inside of me had to get back to success to feel okay. Um, so really my story just, it intertwines and goes through these winding turns, but where I am today, I can honestly say that it was by God's grace that he gave me the fortitude, having a great partner, and really just always appreciating my journey, that I was that person that had no discipline, that I was
Right.
that took life for granted. And I was that person that even I was incredulous to my father's achievements, and I put stock in the wrong thing. Um, so that's really where I am today, is just even past the mark. I've met the mark, I've met the goals, and you can't turn that off once you turn
You
it on.
start. Wow, that's powerful right there.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I'm hearing from you that you use the shame to bolster you to greatness. You didn't let it stop you. Something within you said, I can do this in spite of all the things that I did in my past. It's not too late, and I'm going to use that as a motivator to catch up. Like, I'm going to use my lateness to take 30 credits. I remember I took 21 credits and I wasn't late. I took 21 credits and I was on time. But I just knew that this is the path that I had to take.
Yeah.
Period. And since it's the path that I have to take, I'm going to take it, and I'm not going to be afraid. You also had a partner, because that extra 9 credits, you're gonna need somebody to help you with that one, right? So you had, I love that. Shout out to Taurus. And so you give honor to your husband, as well as to God, who was really the person who gave you strength.
Oh yeah.
And I love that. I love the fact, most people give me a lot of different types of tools, but you need supernatural power.
Woo,
You
that-
need a whole other two people. You need a husband and a God to help you through that. And there's nothing wrong with that. And I'm glad that you represent people who started late in the game, um were married, but they went forward. Okay, so what are some challenges that you had in school? What do you think were the challenges you had in those? Just the volume enough, I think, would be a lot. What were some challenges?
Listen, Doc, just not having, right, the point of reference of being a student, before. And
Mhm.
you teach in the community college space, so I'm sure you've encountered those of us that it doesn't matter how old you are. You're in class with an 18-year-old kid that's like, fresh, sharp. So I guess my biggest barrier to succeeding through school was my own kind of like negative talk. Not only that, it
Mhm.
was the subject matter. I wasn't comfortable. I took only up to like algebra 1. So here I am telling myself that I have this calling in STEM and that I want to be in supply chain, a very mathematically heavy area. And I literally enter school with algebra 1. So that in and of itself, the summer courses that I had to take to get myself up to par, because remember, I graduated with a GED.
Mhm.
So I'm getting into these, trigonometry and calculus, all of these classes that I wasn't even qualified to enter, just
Wow.
by not having these prerequisites. Um, I honestly think that I had sort of like a Daniel experience, because I'm telling you that I never even took one of those prerequisites. I had just a word of mouth agreement with my teachers that I went to them straight up. And I think people sometimes don't give credit to the power of your word, in that people will see you where you are and trust you if you're serious. I went to basically my college algebra professor and I said, listen, I have this goal of obtaining this much education over this amount of time. If you send me back to get algebra 2, physics, this, that, I sat with all of my teachers and I gave them the straight up goal. I said, give me a chance. I'm a fast learner. Like I said, I've always feel like I've been analytical. I've always had some kind of foundation. Maybe it was because of the home I grew up in, and I was always goofy, but I was smart. And I said to them, I don't have these courses for a lack of knowledge. I had a 21 on my SAT without even trying. So I felt like if they just give me the chance, I was going to pass the class. And
Okay.
my teacher said, bet, I'm going to let you, into this integrated statistics class. If you pass, cool. If you don't, then you're the one that has this timeline. You're going to go back and take all of these prerequisites. And I will
What?
that from the day I started my associates to my master's, I've yet to take a remedial course. They've allowed me into the normal workload, the normal classes without any prerequisites. And that is the Holy Spirit, because I
That
did.
is God Himself, because I can't get a lot of my students who I feel are eligible for those classes. They gotta take intermediate algebra before they take college algebra, and that is amazing story. That is God. That
Yeah.
is straight miracle, and but you did it, and I know you can. I know many students, especially students of color, are really can do the work if they are given a chance, because unfortunately, which I disagree, many students are being placed in certain classes based on their standardized test scores,
Yeah.
and I know with me, if I went to Oakwood College and I didn't have a high SAT score, but I was taking pre-calculus. I wasn't in intermediate algebra. I didn't have a bad SAT score to the point where I needed to be in any remedial math.
Yeah.
But if I had my current SAT score, I think I wouldn't have been placed into the high math class that I had. And I think that's unfortunate because standardized tests reflect don't always reflect. Hey guys, just feel free to say hi. I see my mom watching. I see a couple
Hey,
people
mom.
watching. They don't always reflect how someone will do in class. They don't always reflect the grit of
Yeah.
people. So that's a miracle. um
And
okay.
I was going to say, not only the fact that I didn't have the prerequisites, but when you talk about one of the tools, I would say that people are never prepared to follow through. That is one of the easiest ways to fail. So, someone like me or whoever's out there that is looking to take this trajectory, or you're saying, hey, I don't feel like I'm adequate, the power of voicing your goals to other people, especially superiors like a professor, they've seen it. They've been there. They've done that. You've been a professor for many years. If you're serious and you're not going to waste people's time, the likelihood of that person investing into you and giving you a chance. But guess what? Like 90% of us don't even ask.
That's right.
90% of people don't care. Or if
Yeah.
they do and they bluff, they're not ready to take the next step and commit to that journey. So that's what I did. I first had to look internally, talk to my husband, my best friend, anybody who was going to rally around me during this difficult time, and they had to be straight with me. So let me not put the wrong message out there that I had a partner, he's great. My husband, the pettiness of the quiet man. He said to me, "Okay, so you're going to take college algebra. All right. Are you going to wake up on time you know, are you he challenged me on my personal. He didn't even come at me with, you know, you don't know anything about exponents, blah blah blah.
Right.
People that really knew me deep inside before making that commitment to go to someone else to give me a chance, I had to get ready for what was on the other side of that, was the work.
That's
And
right.
a lot of that, the tools that we think are like seminars or LinkedIn Learning or this and that, it's you. The tool is you. You got to prepare you, your mental, your spiritual. And that is the key to coming in disadvantaged. Is, are you prepared to do the work? Because you may just run into the right person who's crazy enough to tell you yes.
That's right. And you better do the work. You better follow through. You better complete. You know I mean, that is what education is about, Ebony. It's about discipline, completion, follow through. And you know, it bugs me sometimes where people say, you know, I don't need an education to whatever. I don't need that. And I'm like, you know, a lot of people don't honor what education brings. Education teaches discipline.
Yeah.
Education teaches you to come through with your word. You promised that if you enter this class that you would come to attend, you would attend on time, you would accomplish assignments, you would complete. That is what education is.
Yes.
And I think people throw that away and then they go and do it in their own way, which is still education, and they call it something else.
It's all education.
It's all education. And unfortunately, you know, many throw away the partners that they have in education called their professors,
Yes.
and then they go pay coaches. They go pay coaches 10 times more. I see things that really says, oh my goodness, what they are teaching is what we are teaching.
Yeah.
But because of the lack of respect for what education brings, you know. So I'm really appreciative that you honor education. And that's what that's what usually people who are educated do.
100%.
Right? Because the more we learn, the more we understand it's that the more we don't know. And the more we understand that this thing is about follow through and discipline.
Yes.
That's what a PhD is about. A PhD is really about follow through during the ups and downs of it all. I'm loving this conversation with you. So what are your challenges now? What are your challenges now? Your challenges before was just trying the immense
Trying to
need to
grind.
follow through and get through
Yeah.
where you were really behind and you had to pass through all these prereqs and you did.
Yeah.
Right? So first of all, tell me what you do now. What are you currently?
Sure. So I recently moved to Kansas, Doc. I think anybody that's like in our general circle or knows of me knows that we've recently done this big move. And I am the supply chain manager for the Mid America region here at Advent Health for a facility called Ottawa. Fairly small hospital, but Kansas, for some reason, within Advent Health is really booming. And they have two major hospitals, several, CentraCares. They have CentraCare here as well. And we're opening up another one called South Overland Park, as well as some more freestanding EDs. So I took this job mainly because, of my expertise in my education over time. I wanted to move into supply chain leadership. I've been an analyst over the past couple of years in several supply chain areas, from like warehousing to value analysis and clinical value. But I really wanted to step into the leadership role because I want to take ownership of more projects. So I want to use my education and I want to use my expertise not only to inform the decisions of other leaders, but I think I'm at the cusp of sort of being able to own a project, bring value to the organization, and actually, more so than supply chain, I want to use that same grit and everything that I've applied through obtaining this education. And I want to see if I can cultivate that in other people. I want to try my hand
Mm.
at duplicating my method. So right now, I am a supply chain manager at a hospital, but still here in that capacity of managing projects and value analysis.
All right. So what are your challenges?
I would say my biggest challenge right now is work-life balance.
Mm,
I think that, just being a determined person, it's like a lifelong journey. And I think when I started, I was in such a survival mode that I thought I was going to get relief at some point. But as you know, just with more education, more enlightenment, more responsibility comes.
more responsibility.
Types of opportunities come at you fast and doors open. So I think my challenge right now is that I'm in that mix of I'm so grateful and I'm pursuing more, which I'm crazy. I just love education at this point. But yeah, I kind of want to relax, but my responsibilities are excuse me, my responsibilities are growing. My footprint is enlarging and my networking is just kind of taking off. So that's where I am. Is finally I feel like I've become a disciplined person. I've become a person that is not only trying to catch up, but I feel like I love where I am, but I wasn't ready for everything that comes with, I guess being educated or taking on these certifications and wanting to be a leader in a certain field. That's where I'm at a crossroads with if I like that or I just want to chill.
I know, I know, I know. You're young. You'll be all right. It'll be okay. You know, it's hard. It's hard. So it's a lot. And the more education that you get, the more responsibility that you get, the more opportunities come your way. And knowing what to say yes to is its own stressor.
Oh yeah.
And because you're like, well, if I should say yes and then get opportunity here.
Oh yeah.
What I will say to you is doors will close.
Wow.
If you take it to God, take your life to God in prayer.
Oh yeah.
Doors will open and doors will close.
Yeah.
And don't force open doors. Don't
Oh,
force open doors. But if the door is open, he will give you the strength
yeah.
to push through. That would be my advice to you. But it's very important. I do think it's very important that you master work life balance,
Oh yeah.
because you want to be sane
Yeah.
at the end of the day. And that's what I value with my life. I learned to say no.
Yeah.
If it doesn't fit my gift and my skill set, I learned to say no. If it does fit my gift and my skill set and I feel the calling to do it, I'll say yes. And I know that I will be strengthened to do it. But she has a husband and two little girls, two firecrackers.
Ooh, those kids,
So
man.
managing that, it can be definitely a challenge. But it can be mastered. All right, last question. So, what's your favorite part of your career? What's the favorite part
Certainly.
of your career?
I think the favorite part is that things are different every day. So one of the reasons, Doc, why I didn't go down the finance route. So my bachelor started out in business administration, and I just felt this weird urge to take a bunch of accounting courses, and it kind of morphed, and I ended up with a minor, and I did delve into the finance world for a little bit. But supply chain is so unique in that the issues are different every day.
Mm,
So, in the finance world, you have accounting, you have, the open, close. In human resources, you have these repetitive processes of onboarding folks and dealing, with the people aspect. With supply chain, we get to touch a piece of all of that. So, our careers have morphed from materials management, which is more of that point of sale, this organization needs this, I procure it. That's where it ends. Well, the discipline has changed in its name to supply chain over the years because more engineering people are coming into the supply chain space, and we're now finding out that we can help in operations in any area. So I can walk
mm,
to Walmart, and if I see an efficiency and I know of a process that will improve, the way that you get your vegetables, I can step in and give that insight and improve that process. I can walk into the mall in the retail space. And if I see that the space is not laid out optimally, I can lend my voice to that. And that is what I love about this field, is that I've gained the tools to pretty much step into anywhere
Any space.
that I want to go to, because supply chain is what keeps the world going around. You do supply chain the minute that you wake up until you leave your door. Every single one of those processes are a chain of activities that you do to get a final product done. And I can do that at a large scale anywhere. And that is awesome. I'm grateful to be in the healthcare space because obviously, you know, that's my mission now. I love working for Advent Health. I love just sort of the way that we impact people's lives without being clinical, but we're kind of right there, especially during the pandemic. I never thought I would be considered essential, let alone spend months, you know, at Advent Health Orlando, kind of triaging super critical products like breathing machines and breathing tubes, and forecasting the need of those critical items. Like, that blows my mind that during this once in a lifetime event,
Pandemic
I was going to be at home chilling like everybody else. You know, my expertise and my team's expertise and
was
this
needed.
was at the forefront, along with our, you know, clinical counterparts, playing such an important part. So while I love supply chain as a whole, I think healthcare supply chain has become sort of my passion. And I love being able to touch people in a special way without the blood. To be
Right. No, this is a powerful interview right now because there's so many people that wants to get in the healthcare space and we limit ourselves to being doctors, physicians, and nurses, right? And there's just multiple spaces that you can enter to the point where, you know, helping somebody to breathe is not just um being a respiratory therapist. It is the supply chain manager that gets the heart lung machine or the respirator to the patient so that they can be put intubated. Or forecasting, meaning, okay, based on the data analytics, based on the numbers that we see happening, we are going to need X amount of machines by this time. This requires an analytical mind, guys. It requires an analytical mind. You don't have to be a mathematician to use your analytical mind. There's just so many spaces that you can use your analytical mind, which has many opportunities for leadership and opportunities for jobs. Like, if you think about the jobs in healthcare right now, it's heavily pushing in the data analytics, right? And so if you don't want to necessarily help the sick in the context of being there to support them during their sickness, you know, some of you shouldn't be nurses. Some of you should not be going to nursing school. You do not want. Do you know where nurses have to put their hands? You know, some of you don't have the gift of service and mercy that's required to be a physician to help people who are sick. But you want to be in the healthcare space. You're really, really smart and you have an analytical mind. And a lot of you can be a physician if you wanted to, but maybe you shouldn't. And you're like, well, what should I do to make, you know, to make a good finance or help my family, have a good career, have a good salary, and still be in that space? Well, think of, like, broaden your mind. That's why I have you here, Ebony, because I think a lot of the times, and I've always been like this since I was in college, I didn't like the fact that so many people who were smart were just clustered into pre-med. Like, just because you're smart, you're pre-med. Smart people can be everywhere. And I always thought outside of the box. And I knew, based on my temperament, that I did not want to heal the sick. That's not what I wanted to do. And I was able to say, you know what? I am smart. I'm not taking the way out. I am who I am, not because I couldn't get into medical school, but because I did not want to go to medical school. You understand? And there's a lot of people out there that I'm freeing, that we are freeing, Ebony, when we are informing them of all kinds of other opportunities to be successful that don't necessarily fit the doctor, lawyer, story. So this has been an awesome conversation. Is there any final words that you want to say?
Um, just pray for me. I think my friends and my family think I'm crazy for going back to school. But I just want to encourage anybody that's out there that may have started late, where things don't look like your conventional route. The minute you decide that God has a bigger plan for you, trust me that He does, and you better be ready to do the work. Um, I am a testament that anybody, we need a whole nother episode for me to go into, right? So, my sob story. Everybody has a sob story. But for you to make it just out of where you are, if that is your desire, you have to accept that everyone has a sob story. And are you ready to do the work if the Lord, your teacher, your professor, your boss at work, whoever was ready to open up a door for you, are you prepared to take that on? And just blessings to anybody out there. Please feel free to contact me on Facebook, Instagram. I help whoever I can with their resumes and just insight into getting into healthcare, especially the support services area. So you know me, I'm always down to help, send anybody my way, and just grateful always to be able to share any platform with you.
Thanks so much, Ebony. This has been an awesome interview. I am the phenomenal STEMist, and so is she. Good afternoon, everybody.